Good evening, people. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Spirit Journey. Yes, today is Saturday, December 17th, 2022. And the time is about 5:34 in the PM. Hope you're all doing well. Yes, another beautiful evening. As you can see out my window, the New York skyline. This is always so peaceful looking. Yeah, I just sat up so you can see it clearer. Isn't that a gorgeous view? Yeah, this is very relaxing. Yes, good evening, viewer, good evening. Say hello in the chat room if you may. Let me know how the sound is. How is the sound? How's the audio? Hope it's okay. Yes, yes, yes. Let's see, make this bigger. Okay, just setting up my screen so I could see a little better. Yes, I like to talk about what's on my mind this beautiful Saturday evening. Yes, I did go out today. I stayed in yesterday because it was raining really bad, but I did go out today. I left early this morning and I did my walk. I actually finished my walk quickly. I'm usually out for like 3.5 hours, from 3 to 3.5 hours, sometimes 4. But today I completed my walk and everything in 2.5 hours. Yeah, I was surprised. And yeah, it went okay. It went okay. So, what do I want to talk about now? I want to talk about, yeah, I entitled this Identity. What is your identity? And it's based upon what I was watching today. Um, the last thing I was watching on YouTube was about South Africa, the country of South Africa, and what was the other thing? Oh gosh, I don't want to forget. Oh, someone had. Oh, what's that? It'll come to me. It'll come to me. Um, oh, I remember. Um, a YouTuber that I watch shared a video. This German man, white German fellow, shared his thoughts about the indigenous people of the planet and the Northern European. And so both of those thoughts about South Africa, South Africans' colored population, what they call coloreds, and the video with the German man speaking about indigenous people of the planet. So that's what I want to talk about. And please feel free to share your thoughts, your experiences in the comments below. Where to begin? Well, let me begin first with the German man, the white German fellow. He looked like a man in his 40s, and he shared that the indigenous races, such as the African, the Asian, so the South American people, the Indians, Australian natives. These are to him the indigenous people. And that the Northern European, like people from his country, whites from like Germany, are not indigenous. So isn't that something? And with it, that he had a sense of respect, and he wanted to not take claim of the planet because he knows that he is not indigenous and that they are aliens from another world. And I thought, wow. Now, now in the Bible, they do talk about the sons of men and the sons of God and the daughters of men. What were they really talking about with that? Wouldn't it be implied about the genetics of the people were mixed with outsiders? And I think that's what he was getting at. And there is a different mindset between, in my experiences, between white European races and the non-European races. In the past 500 years, what has happened? But again, we don't know in depth, well maybe, most of us may not know, prior to 500 years, what was happening on the planet. People were moving around to different locations, people fighting. It seems like with humanity, people on this planet is always fighting even the Bible. I don't know why. It's just a lust for fighting in order to take land away. And in the Bible, with Genesis, why did Abraham's, I kind of going a little bit outside of what I was going to talk about, but it's all related. Why did Abraham's father leave his land to go to the land of Canaan? Why? Why couldn't he stay where he was? What socially was happening in that part of the land? Was he a person that was borderline of rights, or what? What was his social status? And what happened eventually? But Abraham's seeds took over land, and the people who were there were vilified and pushed out. They had the people that were there beforehand, before Abraham's seed, were flourishing. And one thing we do know with genetics and pictures that were, drawings, that these were not white people. These were all people of color. But somehow, this desire to take over and then to vilify and to say, well, God told me, God promised this land to me. Then you start to wonder who this God is. Wow. So interesting, the German. What are Germans? Did you know that before, what we would call German people, there were another people there called the Neanderthal. Neanderthal, that's a city or a town in Germany. And thus Neanderthals, regarding the people that lived in certain regions of that land. And I live in New York City, and there's a Museum of Natural History that they have a display of these Neanderthal bones. And it would be, I took many, many pictures. of this exhibit of the ancient people on this planet. And you know, it'll be, you know, there are notices in that museum that says if you cannot take pictures of these exhibits. You are forbidden to put it, to upload it on any social media. Wow. See that, people? They don't want you to know the truth. What these people look like. Um, they want to keep you in darkness about human heritage. How dare someone say that you cannot take a picture and but you can do the European exhibit, all these other exhibits there, right, with your camera, but you cannot show that one. Wow. Yeah, I went there a couple of years ago in part of my awakening. That so sometime after, let's see, sometime in, I think it's 2015 I went. Yeah, 2015 around. Yeah, I didn't upload those pictures. But I would advise anyone who has an opportunity to go to that museum, the Museum of Natural History in Manhattan, New York City, go and look. Okay, they don't want people to know about heritage and what about humanity. These were very muscular, big bone people. They weren't tall, but man, oh man, their bones were thick. They were strong people, and they were something happened, and I gather that they were pushed off their land. And there was a remnant of them, I think, in modern day Spain, these cliffs or something. And that was the very last ones that held on. But you do have with modern genetics people who have genetics of them. So interesting. So modern people had unions with these Neanderthals. It would be interesting whether they were from whether it was a female Neanderthal or a male Neanderthal. So it's interesting, this planet has so much diversity. And we know so little. I know so little about other people. And I live here in New York City, and yeah, the past 2.5 years. I mean, the maybe the past 5 years, the racial climate is unreal. I mean, the racial climate in New York City, in the United States, is, I think, unparalleled to any other country, but maybe very similar to South Africa. Yes, it's like, it's a made-up term, race and racism, but very deadly. It's a very deadly, evil human construct. And I want to talk about South Africa. Um, Earlier today, I was curious about South Africa. I did like a Google search and YouTube search about South Africa to learn a little bit more about the towns, where they call expats live, the possibility of maybe relocating there. Really, I'm checking for myself. And maybe considering a place like South Africa, but I am afraid of the history of South Africa, because it's very much like the the excuse me, there's the racial climate in especially the southern states during the Civil Rights Act in the United States. So that's the 1950s and 60s. But I was curious, um, growing up in the 1980s, I was in my early 20s. Yeah, the racial climate about South Africa was very, very hostile, and heard about what they call apartheid, and it was just it produced a lot of anxiety in me. Why would you have something segregated to such extreme? And I heard growing up that, let's say someone has a baby, and if the baby was a different complexion of the parent, that they can take away the child. They had a color coded system: black, white, and colored. And I remember in my family, when one of my siblings said, hey, if we were in South Africa, all of us would be in different categories. And I think he's right. Yep. We would be put in three different categories. They would divide us up into three categories to separate a family. It's such an evil system to do that, to pull away family like that. But anyway, I was just looking into some of the things in South Africa, and it does get me feeling anxiety. Um, I have met people from South Africa. I have. And yeah, I've met a woman. She was a white woman, a single parent, and she was an artist. And she left by herself. She had a daughter, and she left. Well, she had her. When apartheid ended, I met her in the 1990s, and apartheid ended. What was that? In the early 90s, where she sent away her daughter. She sent her daughter to the United States for school. I think college. It was for college. She says, "No, I'm going to have my kid live here, live in South Africa, under this system." When the apartheid changed, um, there was known. But again, I've never been to South Africa, but the things I've heard, a lot of violence, a lot of physical violence. Um, yeah, and if you have a girl, oh yeah, you wouldn't want your girl to be exposed to that. But either way, so these are some of the things that I heard growing up, and it produces a lot of anxiety to me to have this type of social structure, and my history here living in New York City. It is a very racist environment in New York City, and people make issue about so-called Southern people, Southern whites, that if you have a Southern accent, you're a white person, that you're a bigot. Well, you don't have to be from the South to be a bigot. There are a lot of bigoted people right here in New York City, and I find that there seems to be a correlation of poverty and racism. You have communities here in New York City. You got a lot of poor people here in New York City who trying to make a living. You have communities that you better not go to if you're a black person. Yeah, they exist. But yeah, racism can be in any community, or bigotry could be in any community. Um, so I was curious about South Africa as a possible place to find out more about, because, well, As some of you know, I was planning on moving 2 months ago, but my plans fell through because some information came to light. And thank God that I found out about that information before I bought my ticket. And so I'm really evaluating what I really want to do. Do I still want to move? And, you know, so I could, I only want to move to places where I can bring my money, direct deposit. Some countries we don't have, you're not able to have your money direct deposited to other countries. Let's say you get money every month, and they give you direct deposit, and let's say you move, you want your money to come with you, right? Well, that was part of my problem when I found out that the country I was going to go to that in Africa didn't have they didn't have an arrangement to allow direct deposit into that country, and there were other factors, and my heart was broken. So I just was, curiosity. I said, hey, let me, this country has it. South African has a system that our country does do direct deposit. Say, hey, I looked at it before in the past. Hey, let me just recheck what anything new. And one thing I found, what they talk about. There's a group that we hardly hear about. We always hear about white people and black people, right? The 1990s, the extreme violence and stuff, and let's end apartheid. Well, apartheid ended, uh, but there's a population group that we don't really hear about, what they call the coloreds of South Africa. South Africa has a very diverse history. And when I was in the military, I was very interested. I was becoming awakened about learning about my African roots. And I bought this giant-sized book. I no longer have it. Hardcover book on the history of South Africa. Boy, it would have been, I had some fantastic books. Yeah, no longer have it, but it has a history. And what they talked about when Europeans came to South Africa, the Europeans brought in people from other lands to oppress, that is. People from Asia. I think it was Sri Lanka, Malaysia. Yeah, that people were being stolen from the Pacific, those areas there. And then they were brought into South Africa. But you already had people there, indigenous people there as well, of course, called the Khoisans people. And the Khoisans, I learned about the Khoisans 42 years ago, my first semester in college. What do you call it? A sociologist? No, an anthropologist. And he studied the Khoisans people and other people around there. And they have the oldest genetics. Their mitochondrial DNA is just a few degrees away from ancestral Eve. And I thought that was fantastic. And I have also a very old mitochondrial DNA as well, but not as old as theirs. Yeah. And I'm proud of that, to have that. When I saw that, I said, I'm proud about that. um, no matter what your genetics have, be proud of what you have, because it's what it's your car, it's your vehicle that you run, right? Respect your genetics, respect your body. So anyway, so you have these people, the Khoisans, and there was I people, to my understanding, they got these people from Asia to do labor. Yeah, yeah, there was a slave trade. People were being stolen in Asia. They don't really talk about that history. They just want you to think only African people were stolen and then enslaved. Yeah, human trafficking, and still there's human trafficking. But people, they don't want you to know that. They keep changing the name. When anybody from Africa is conquered, they automatically call them slaves. You notice that? But when someone is conquered in another land, especially Europe, they just say maybe prisoner of war, casualties of war, but they don't call them slaves, right? But anyway, just food for thought. So you have the indigenous people, the people that were there before the European, the people that were brought in from Asia, and then the European. And offsprings resulted from this union. And I think initially they used that first generation of people, and anybody from South Africa that's listening who knows about this, please, you could write your information below. Anything I get incorrect or that you want to embellish on, please share it below in the chat room or in the comment section of this live stream once it uploads. Okay. So the offspring would then um, intermarried with, again, the Europeans. So it's like they wanted to have a foundation of indigenous from the Khoisans and the Asian mixed in with the European. That was going to be your foundational race. And then everything after that, from that offspring, is to mate with the European. And this is going to be the ruling class of people. Okay? But those who didn't mix, they were left on the fringe. And today, they were like the videos watching, they were showing where these, this mixture of people are called coloreds. These are people, I guess, a triracial, Asian mix, African mix, and the European. And they're left to live in squalor. Now, they're different from the black, what you call black people there. Different social status. And they're living in utmost squalor. Now, it was confusing to me because, like, things like in the United States, we have a racial-based system, but they pretty much, well, they throw together. They used the term coloreds in the South a long time ago, and that was just anybody that was a non-white person. So there could be a dark-skinned person or brown skin, but it's all under the same social status, social category. But in South Africa, they have that other system. See, they were afraid to allow the colored race to um, blend in with the um, black population because it would make their numbers bigger. So a triracial system, uh, I guess, made it easier to navigate for the oppressing group. But they showed, wow, they live, the so-called colored people, they call them the Cape Coloreds, and they lived in what they call the Western Cape. For whatever reason, I have always been fascinated with that the southern tip of Africa has a point. I don't know why, but I have a fascination with the shape of the continent, the lower tip. And I said, wow, this is the most southern tip of Africa. And I'm fascinated with that fact. And I don't understand why. Anybody else there fascinated with that tip, the southernmost tip of South Africa? It's amazing. It's just something that I'm fascinated with. So I found a map on the internet and just zoomed in to find out what town is the southernmost tip. I would love to see it. But yeah, that's when I also zoomed in on what they call the Cape. Oh God, what do you call it? The Cape, and that's where a lot of drama is, and a lot of the people are forgive. It's really interesting. What they call the colored races of South Africa are criminalized. The stereotype is that they're angry and loud people. Now, who here in America is called angry and loud? Yeah, Black America can be light or dark and are marginalized and living in close quarters. And people blend in, people may have kids with these people. And so, the variety of shades and hair textures, all that is not uncommon, you know. I mean, not as much as like places like Brazil or Puerto Rico, but you could, the U.S., you know, you have that classification of people, and regardless of their complexion, that they're designated that particular group. And I do notice though that uh, the people of the colored race of South Africa, in comparison to North American black, there is a difference. But the social condition seems to be the same. Even though American blacks in general are darker than the um, South African coloreds, the outcome of their lives seem to me pretty much the same. And I found a video of a woman from South Africa who's classified as a colored. Both of her parents are colored people. But she went to a predominantly white school, and she was sharing her experience with racism, living as a colored person in South Africa. But the ties between blacks and coloreds is a big margin. It's as if the colored race is a hybrid race that's not black nor white. And it's not liked, they seem to not be liked by either people, either race is black or white, which I thought was interesting. When I say interesting, not meaning that it's good, but in contrast with my life in North America, it's a different mindset. So this woman, she shared her experiences as a colored person and how she did not really fit in to the white society, the school, the predominantly white school. Um, she they were racist because of her color, even though she was a light-skinned woman. But then one day, when she became an adult, she was navigating in her so-called colored race community. And they didn't really respect her because she didn't sound like one of them. And that's a typical theme that, see, some people may have the opportunity to a formal education. And yes, you bring your kid to uh, be educated or what do you call it, a boarding school, whatever. You're going to sound like you know, whoever who's instructing you there. But what happens when you leave and maybe want to do business in your people, they may not accept you. And it seems like in the West Indies, I did experience that. I did witness that. Uh, I had an opportunity to live in the West Indies and the U.S. Virgin Islands. And I met a young woman who did go to school in the United States mainland. And then after graduation, she went back home. And you know, the local people did not like her. They did not like her. Openly was hateful towards her. But again, a lot of the middle class, I guess they serve as the middle class community, often send their kids to U.S. mainland for education. And then they come back, many of them. And instant hatred to them. They don't think that they could better the community. You know, you want an educated class of people. You need people with information, and that information to be used to service the community. So yes, I would say that uh, the West Indies, that island, that specific island, has a lot to learn. I mean, you have some really intelligent people there that are born there. And yes, when they have an opportunity to get educated, they see the U.S. Virgin Islands. Well, it does have racism. It has colorism, classism to some extent. It does exist, um, but it's not quite the same like the U.S. I mean, the mass majority of the people there are people of color, as it's said, but there is colorism, and but you don't work above a day every day seeing that you are a minority. The mass majority of the people are there are black or people of color. And to the sad reality that you leave to get educated so you could come home and service your people, and they could reject you. Just an FYI, people. So one video I saw that they were featuring different people of what do you call a biracial union, you know, children of biracial unions and their experiences. And I thought what was interesting was this fellow. They seem to focus on mixed race females, I notice, but they don't really focus a lot on the mixed race males. And they showed this one guy, and he's living in Africa. I forget what country. And his mother is an African woman, father is a white man, and they probably live in a white community. And the son does what they call skateboarding, and all his friends there are white. And they're all males, and they're doing the roller skate. You would not. I meant to say skateboard. If I said roller skate, I meant to say skateboarding. And he shared this um, biracial kid. It's explaining that his so-called white friends would say certain things, racist things to get at him. And it's like, why do they, if this is someone who you're playing with, skating, why are you interjecting racial attacks on him? But they think it's funny. They think, they think they're being cute. They make, stereotype about what people like him might eat. Um, I call this, what do you call it, microaggressions. They try to play it off as, oh, they're just being funny, and I bet if you say something, I get, hey, why you say that? Oh, you're just sensitive. You're just sensitive. But it's a microaggression. And I realize it's fascinating in the sense that what is the social dynamics that created this microaggression against this one guy, and they all know his father's a white father but an African mother, and they're living in Africa. Why this hatred, this microaggression, these slurs that they would say against him, and they're all like hanging out and do skateboard. What are these boys, white boys, taught at home? What do they? Why even bother? You're in Africa. Why do you need to do this? Have this mindset. Don't you ever wonder? Is this kid there to harm you? No, I mean, his father married one, he didn't have any problem with her, so why? It is a jealousy. See, their programs, they don't see him as one of their own because they know what he is mixed with. Um, but that it's a targeting and a hatred, and that it is an attack. A microaggression is an attack. It's an indirect attack because they feel threatened on some unconscious level, and they probably might think, "Oh, I'm just playing around." Why would a friend play around like that? And what are they supposed to do with it? When please let me know if anybody a white male is out there. What would make a white male verbally attacked a child, another male who has a white father like yours, but a black slash African mother? And he's socialized in a European culture, so he dresses like you, he speaks your language, maybe practices your religion. Why would you do this to him? What is happening in your mind to target and say something, a slur about this person that you're hanging out with? It is a violent, I mean, I would say it's like the Carbo 6 that went to Mexico about 2 months ago that committed MURDER against their female friend, caught on camera, and they aired it right away before they even told anybody that anything happened to her. They uploaded it on social media. Be careful who you call your friends. If these so-called friends say these microaggression comments to you and to try to pass off like you're joking, be careful and dump those friends, because these are the type of people who will hijack you and do MURDER against you. Yes, they would. They will ambush you and do something against you. Stay away from people like that. Any friend, any so-called friend who do these microaggressions against you, whether male or female. You protect yourself and stay away from people like that because they're not your friend and they're only your friends conditionally. Only if you're beneath them or if they could use you financially or for status. They are programmed against you and you've done them no harm. This kid was no threat to these young boys. They were all neighbors. They all played skateboard. They speak your language. They dress your dress. So don't think that if you try to dress like them, that they will accept you. Don't believe it. But there are different rules to the game. And in New York City, you have a lot of Asian, but the light-skinned Asians, like from East Asia, the white men seem to like. Again, everything what I'm saying is my observation. Who you marry, who you like, who you date is your business. It is your business who you go out with and who you sleep with and who you marry. But I'm just going by an observation what I see. So, but it's interesting that these white men, they go out their way to date East Asian type females. They do not seem to associate with South Asian people, like people from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. Those places they avoid. They avoid associating or marrying people, females from there. So be careful. So it is something that this microaggression. Oh yeah. So this film that I was watching today on South Africa, the Forgotten Group, the South African colored people. And one of the videos title was, "We are not colored people. We are the Khoisans." The Khoisans, or the Khoi, or the Sans people, they are the indigenous inhabitants of the country of South Africa. They are very unique in their appearance. They have like a yellowish brown complexion, and some would will suggest even a slight Asian look to them. And they live off the land. When I took a what do you call it? Not sociology. What do you call that? When you study different people's. Well, either way, 42 years ago, my teacher was a researcher and researched this indigenous group in South Africa. They have the oldest genetics on the planet, the oldest. And I'm very proud to say that my mitochondrial DNA is not too far distant from the Khoisans. Yeah, not quite much. Like there's just an L0 something. Mine is an L1. So it's not all that far distance. And I'm quite proud of it. And it's nice to know that my genetics, my mitochondrial DNA goes back far. Yeah, so my mitochondrial DNA is indigenous, and I'm very proud of that. Yeah. So the video that I'm watching talks about, yes, I hope you guys could hear me. Let me know if you can hear me well, you know. So what was I going to say now? Yeah, so the Khoisans people, their genetics, look at it. Sorry, just moved, my hand is getting numb. Yeah, I'm holding this my tablet. It gets awkward holding. But yeah, this Khoisan's people is the oldest DNA on the planet. And the video is saying we are not colored people because see, the colored people has a very diverse, colored is a general term for a cluster of people. And again, they're in general mixed with Asian, European, and indigenous of Southern Africa. But they say, no, we are the Khoisan's people. See, when you're able to say that, the Khoisans, they are indigenous. They're the first inhabitants there. And they are being mistreated. And they showed one of the videos. People, they're being shot at. They show, you have, it's really interesting what the modern day colored people look like. I mean, one of the people, let's see, you know that actor, he looks Pacific Island, he's Pacific Islander and German. He was born in the United States. He's married to Lisa Bonet, or used to be married to Lisa Bonet. Oh, a really good looking dude. But yeah, he looked like him. But he had dreadlocks. But no, he had dread. And it's amazing. The so-called colored population is phenotypes are very different from one another. They could be brown, they could be tan in color, and their faces are all different from one another, but yet they're all thrown in the same pit of despair. And they were being shot at. They want to they want to live. They have them live in squalor. They were saying like they could be 10 people in one room. They have like a common area and a kitchen, and about 10 people live in the common area, and it's a small little space. And the government was kicking them off, saying that it's not an appropriate place for you to, it's not a qualified place to live in and safety. Sounds like Israel to me. That's what they do in Israel to the Palestinians. Yep, oh, you shouldn't live in a house like this, and then tear it down. Now, one thing, they tear it down and build them the house, but they don't do that. So it's about a power. And they were doing this to the so-called colored people. They said, "Don't, we're not colored. We are the Khoisan." See, when you give a general term like colored, that doesn't mean that you're connected to the land. When you say, "Hey, I am of this ethnic slash racial slash tribal group that is the first inhabitant of that piece of land that was stolen," then it's politics. You have a right to speak out, and you have certain rights, right? And that's what's happening. Yeah, the Zulu are not, they're from a little further up north, but yes, they migrated south. But why don't you have this? I was surprised that you don't have that connection between the two. I thought the two would be, one on one after apartheid. Yeah, anybody who's from South Africa who's listening to this, please add your insight on this. I'm not from there. I never lived there, but I was very surprised thinking, all this stuff that you heard about apartheid and they got a black president. You would think that they will do things for both so-called black people and so-called colored people, right? You had the same enemies, but that's being overlooked. And this one video I was watching, a what you call a colored woman from uh, um, from South Africa mentioned the inequality. She was I loved how she spoke. Very unique features, and she's called a colored woman, and she doesn't like the double standards. Um, she she did mention she's not treated the that the blacks do not really consider the well-being of the people of color there. The color races there, and that I was surprised at after all what they've been through. But no, it's a separate group, and they are marginalized. But you have a lot of people from the United States who talk about South Africa. You have people who are moving to South Africa and they want to start businesses there. My question to any American going there, how are you treated by the people there? Yeah, they mentioned about with a Cape. Oh God, what's that country? Um, Not Johannesburg, but Cape, something with a Cape in it. How could I forget that term? That country. That city. I can't believe it. But either way, the Cape of South Africa. Oh, I was going to say now. I'm sorry, I'm losing train of thought. Um, well, the people there are being marginalized. Oh, I remember. There's that town in the Cape. It's very segregated, and it's a Eurocentric. The population is a heavy European um, population, and they live in the center of that city, and then the perimeter, it gets from light to dark. So the inner circle are white people, and then you have a little lighter, a little darker, and then the darkest live on the perimeter of that of what do you call it, the Cape. So I thought that was something. But yeah, you have what they call the colored population there as well, and they live in the fringe of some other location, and they are vilified as being violent, loud, aggressive, and who does that sound like in the United States? It's the same thing, and even in native Australia, the same type of things that are being projected on these indigenous people there. Yeah, they say horrible things, and it's like the same thing. Both groups, Britain. It's owned by Britain. That it's considered a was that a what do you call it? Oh, a crown. Was it not colony, but Commonwealth. I think it's called a Commonwealth. And why? Why? And again, same as Australia or New Zealand. Yeah, the indigenous people in Australia are treated so badly. But there are a lot of mixed race people there, of the indigenous and the European. But I don't hear about the stigma that's done upon the mixed race unions there. But in South Africa, uh, the people of mixed ancestry there are living in squalor, and the police are, um, if they try to build a little house for themselves, it's destroyed. And I think it's so sad to have a people that is the oldest genetics on the planet. All of us come from them genetically. All of us. White, black, yellow, red, all come from that people. And to harm them and to make fun of them and say that they're loud and this and that, I feel badly because I know what they're talking about. Isn't that what happens in the United States, like a place like New York City where I live? You got a lot of loud uh, um, blacks that live in these big cities. It's the same stereotype, the same thing, because it's the same behavior being done upon us. And it's designed to make you implode on yourself. It's designed for you to hate yourself. It's designed to destroy you. It's designed that they're going to put drugs and guns in your home, in your community. When I saw the violence, I felt very badly. And I started to think, I said, these people have a right to exist. If these people could only find out the enemy of their enemy and become their friend. You need to find out who your enemy's enemy are and befriend them. That's how they do it. That's how it's done. Because for you, after, was that 300 years? And you just treating these people horrible like that. See, I don't like injustices. And like I said in the very beginning of this live stream, the German guy, the white German man, who made mention about the Northern European is not indigenous to the planet. And he felt, as a white Northern European from Germany, that that his race is not the starting race. They are not indigenous to the planet. And he says he has respect for these people. I thought it was very refreshing. But you ask yourself why, like in the Bible, that someone originated from one place and then went into a foreign nation and turned it upside down. And that shouldn't happen. I hate it. I hate it. I hate to see it. Yeah, these indigenous people. And in Hawaii, what happened, I lived in Hawaii also. But in Hawaii, it seems like they want everybody, because of, what do you call it, tourism. The island of Hawaii is heavily tourism based. And so the people that benefit to say, oh, I'm a mix with Hawaiian for the tourists, right? But it's something they're not treated as bad. Within, my experience living there, what I saw, the indigenous people there are encouraged to marry outside of their race. One person I knew said, well, I always knew that I would be marrying someone outside of my culture, but that I would probably marry a Pacific Islander. And yes, she did, and her daughter did as well. So um, it's like they take. I don't want to say anything out of hand, but it's like you're giving away your culture. Your culture will be no more if you encourage your children to marry outside of your group. There'd be no more Hawaiians. And it's sad because it's going to come to a point that, see, if you don't say, hey, we need to keep our culture and our nation, because, see, the U.S. has rules that you have to have a certain percentage blood of those indigenous people because you will not get any land. Yeah. Let's say you're married to someone, you're Hawaiian, you're married outside your group. Well, what if you die first? That other person who's non Hawaiian will be kicked off that property. And this is in the United States of America. Hawaii is a part of the U.S. Yeah, so it's like, uh, like a celebration of Hawaiian culture because it's a tourist based system with using the Hawaiian theme as a selling point, but the culture itself, the people itself, is not really respected. And the people seem to be encouraged to marry outside of their own. And that I was very sad about because they are nice people. But I see the correlations of being marginalized. But in South Africa, the colors there seem even more marginalized. Um, Seeing that in action, yeah, and I was also shared by a YouTuber there that there's a lot of, now, she did not specify by whom, but she stressed in several videos that South Africa is involved with human trafficking, rape, raping of women and children. My mouth dropped. Yeah, she has a fantastic channel of a colored from South Africa, and she is trying to bring to awareness those things that the media does not want to address, and they don't want to address the human trafficking and the sex trafficking that's happening there. Yeah, people, stop all this nonsense of human trafficking and sex trafficking people. Let's get a hold on our humanity, please. Hold on to humanity. Could you imagine the things that these people see? I had no idea. She stressed it in several videos that this is happening in South Africa, but people don't want to talk about it. And I think I got the impression that it's coming. It's being reflected, that lifestyle, in the what they call the colored community. Wow. And I just took South Africa as whether they be colored or black. I threw them all in the same category. But in South Africa, they have different statuses, a different social system. And the YouTuber was concerned that if you started out about equality, then how come they're not showing equality to these people? And she was concerned about, with crime, that if you try to defend yourself from being a victim, your actions would be criminalized. Boy, that went deep with me. Because I have shared several times on my live stream that yes, a year ago in November, I got attacked in the middle of the street at around 2 p.m. I'm sorry, not 2 p.m. What was that? Yeah, that's what it was after my appointment. Like maybe, yeah, but maybe, yeah, between hours 2 and 3 o'clock. Yeah, that's right. It was after 2 o'clock. I left at 2, my appointment, so it was approaching 3 p.m. in broad daylight. And when I told the cops and tried to explain to them what happened in this attack, the cop didn't want to hear. And I felt that if I pressed the issue, the cop would have arrested me. Some of these people, uh, or at least in the video, the colored woman is saying that she feared that if there's a situation that occurs and if someone is trying to attack her, for her to fight back, they will criminalize her from protecting herself from being a victim. Why? What in the world? Why would you do that? So it didn't matter. It didn't matter with me. They did this to this was the fear of this colored South African woman, young woman. And this was the fear when I became a victim of a crime. And they knew that because of the COVID last November, that, oh, if you're so-called cuckoo, they'll release you right away. They won't hold you in prison. And she wound up in my neighborhood. Oh yes, and I went back to the police, and I had, I think I shared, yeah, I had my, what do you call my recorder on, and she was trying to, ask for me for money. She was right by an alcohol place because she wanted to buy alcohol. And yeah, when she attacked me, she was under the influence of alcohol. She was a white woman, and the white police officers felt sorry for her because she was drunk, even though she physically attacked me in the street. And when I told the cop, she also attacked two others, and the cop got angry at me for telling him what she did. I couldn't believe that something like that would happen in this day and age, but it can happen. And I identify with that woman of color, or you call colored woman of South Africa. I understood the fear that you could be prosecuted for protecting yourself from a criminal. I understood. I understood when I was on the train one time, and these two bullies, there were two black women that were trying to bully me on a very empty train. There was a lot of seats on the train. I was going to see family, and they wanted to bully me. And I had to keep calm because I knew that if anything happened, that we would all be arrested because of our race. And I was angry at that. It happened. It happened. But with that indigenous, what do you call that, German man saying very, very honestly that who is the foreigner is people like him. The Northern European is not indigenous to the planet, he was saying. And I would tend to agree. And that they are programmed, it seems, to be what you see. That is programmed in them, just like Abraham in the Bible. He seemed to be programmed to be a usurper of lands, and then they tried to spiritualize the Bible, and they're a bunch of thieves historically. Yeah, I am no Hebrew Israelite. I am not that. I mean, you can learn anything from any scripture. It does teach some principles that is, what do you call it, universal. But that book is the death of a lot of people on this planet. And so I do not worship that book. But see, I feel if something benefits you, if it uh, creates spiritual maturity and personal discipline, if it serves you, you serve it. If that book serves you, you serve it. No problem about it. But if what the foundations of something, if it teaches by example violence, don't be surprised if violence comes out from among you. There are violence in that book. And we fool ourselves and make it sound spiritual when it's filled with such violence, violence against women, violence against uh, innocent people who are living in the land. So I guess what I'm trying to link together is human nature against these new groups who come into your community and then uh, disenfranchise you of your land. They make you the foreigner and you're indigenous to that location. I think that is a crime. I think it's a crime what's happening to the modern day Khoi Sans people. And to call you colored, anybody can have a color. But being a so called colored person does not make you connected to that part of the land. It does not connect you to that part. But when you say you are Khoi Sans people, you're saying you are directly connected to this land and its resources. And the people, the indigenous people there are being destroyed. And I felt badly. I felt for them. I feel I understand some of the things that they have expressed in the videos. And I think it's just a wake-up call to all Native people. When you allow people to, I'm seeing that when you allow people to label you, it also obscures your full identity. To call someone colored, where's the word colored on the map? There is none like that, but indicates a region, maybe a name of a city, a town, you're part of a tribe. See, that has history and you can identify it on the map and say, that is my natural home. I am the indigenous population there. So you can claim it and reassert yourself that that is your right to live there. So I hope that the people, the colored people in South Africa, I hope someone hears their plight, and I hope they use wisdom and finding out who their enemy's enemy are and become their friend. Yeah. See, it's so all these years, and you're not letting go, and you're just letting people see black and white, but you got those in the middle who's indigenous to that land, and you take away their identity and call them colored when they are the Khoi Sans people, the direct owner of, not owner, but indigenous of that land. See, they don't want to say that they own the land, but they have a special relationship with the land, a spirituality. And that I found fascinating. See, when you don't see, greedy people don't respect anything. But when you respect the land, see, the land will give its fruits to you. And so I have to just change my hand. Ow, it hurts. Yeah, those indigenous people of the land of Canaan, you saw how big, remember in the Bible they talk about the grapes were so big that it required several people to carry one cluster of grapes. These people knew the land and they respected the land, and the land gave of its fruit to those indigenous people. But instead, they were vilified and said they were ungodly. Those poor people. Yeah, and the people of that land today are marginalized. Modern day Canaanites, they have a people. You hear the word Palestine, but before Britain came, see again, Britain seemed to invent this system called racism or race thinking. But yeah, it was called Palestine from the Philistines or something. But before they called the Philistines, it was the land of Canaan, of the Canaanites. It was they are modern day Canaanites there. And you know what, people? They are black people. And you know that they make fun of them in that land of Canaan? They are mocked. See that? The indigenous people are the ones that are being mocked by these invaders. People who are out there who identify with what I'm saying. Yeah, we call ourselves many things, but I think what I'm learning with the people of South Africa, the Khoisans people, see, they know that by giving the actual name, because anybody could be colored, but when you give the tribal name associated with that land, there's no dispute. And you could, by maybe the United Nations, uh, have a plea to the United Nations of your plight. You have to have an actual name. Those Canaanites living there in that land, and they are marginalized and made. The things that they, yeah, are they calling any of you bad names? Horrible. But it seems like, I don't know. I was just about to say a generalization, but I see that it doesn't apply. I notice like in some places, I haven't studied them enough, but like in certain areas of the Pacific Islands, I did live in the Pacific Islands too, but it seems like in some Pacific Islanders, it seems like um, they're not as bastardized, like the French Polynesia. Uh, there's some. It looks as though they have some freedoms there, but boy, not in South Africa or in the land that used to be known as Canaan. And you have the indigenous people in North America that's living on reservations. Like in Canada, you have a lot of indigenous people in Canada. Interesting, they're not liked in Canada. That I was surprised with. I was surprised. But in the United States, it's glamorous to claim you have North American Indian ancestry, but not in Canada. They are disliked. It's something. So, but it seems like the more like um, the more visible you are as an indigenous person, the more hatred that you seem to get, you know. So like Canada or in Australia, the indigenous people, that they are not liked either. In Australia, the indigenous people, yeah, the same type of behavior of the indigenous people there. It shows you that what oppression does to people, it makes them violent. You have a lot of black people in New York City. Uh, I would say the blacks in New York City. When I say New York City, I really mean Manhattan. Is becoming so marginalized because see, what's not being said that you have a lot of new groups coming in, and these new groups are being brought in deliberately to disenfranchise Black America. There, blacks in New York City. Um, and they're also being used to manipulate the voting in New York City to ensure that only certain candidates get in. And when you get a so called black mayor or governor of that region, you're in trouble, honey. You're in trouble. And you're going to be used to do very, very underhanded things. Because, see, what America does now is they want to see the country is going down, and it's really a lover of no one. It eventually will gobble up all the races, okay? But they use black people as the underdog, and then they use blacks to destroy the businesses, the properties, and all that. Um, they're being used to do politics and to get certain policies passed. Because, see, if you challenge these black mayors or governors, they'll just cry out racism. This is what they say. You're being racist, or you do, well, like Obama. Obama did things that were not right. He was voted in. They said 95% of the black population voted him in. But who did he really represent? It was not black people, based on policies that were done. And he was all about issuing in the alphabet soup community. Now, you have a right to whatever sexual orientation, or I should say, what you like, what you're attracted to. You know, what your orientation as it pertains to male or female. But it's going further, and I feel that he betrayed and lied to the population what his goal was. But ultimately, well, anyway, they put in Obama because they had certain policies they wanted to pass in New York. And so if you question what he's going to be doing, then you cry, you're just prejudiced because he's a black person. And is he really black? See, that they think that because somebody's skin color is a certain thing. See, that is the lie what America is doing under the falsehood of diversity. You have diversity is a big name in the United States. Diversity, yeah, this guy named David Icke talked about that in his latest book. Diversity is a trickery to deceive the people of inclusion. The diversity is only skin deep. He called it this name, cosmetic something, meaning that on the outside you have all these different representations, but politically they're all the same. Politically, they're all the same. Politically, they are being used to promote a policy, and it has nothing to do with diversity because they're not diverse in their politics. Their politics are all the same. Their politics. And their politics, what is it? Their politics is about the agenda. This agenda that is coming about under the guise of diversity. And it's not about that. So you're probably going to see more and more of people of color being used to promote a false diversity platform, but they all have the same politics. And it's the politics that they want in office. Yes. And it's a wake-up call. Who are your brothers and sisters of the community? They want you to think that someone who looks a certain way is your brother and sister. But as we see with what they call the Cabo 6 from Mexico, the Halloween weekend, what happened to that poor girl who got killed on camera? Well, I'm not supposed to say that, the word, but was demised on camera. And why haven't they arrested anybody? Did you know they can get what do you call the Interpol? You have an arrest for somebody, can't you get Interpol? That is the international police, and they can find them. We have in the United States cameras everywhere, and you can't find those people who are that stupid to do on camera what you did. What a foolish people. And what they had to do to probably pay off the people there of Mexico. Yeah, another, a little bit to get off the top of it slightly, modify what I'm talking about with this Cabo 6. Um, a viewer, talked about what happened to that poor lady, but she shared also that in Mexico, that one day after that woman was killed by her so-called friends, that another incident happened with the Mexicans, that a couple, male and female, killed another female. And there are a lot of violence done in Mexico against women, and they don't like to prosecute women who are victimized in these attacks. Yeah, it's a common thing. Uh, uh, abuse against women. Abuse against women in Mexico is rampant when it comes to the trial and justice. The women are forgotten. The women in Mexico are forgotten. It's so much. Yeah, I heard like in I think Nicaragua, it's a severe violence against women. Why is that? Could it be post-slavery? The indigenous population, they just kind of, lose it and they take it out on their women. Wow. I'm very sad. People, we have to stop this violence against your own. Stop the violence. Stop the violence. And maybe these religions that we belong to, these religions are killing us. I am all for a natural religion, the religion of the land, the religion of nature, the religion of the environment is what should be ruling your lifestyle because it's about harmony. It is about harmony that you got to live with the land. But when you introduce a false system, a man-made system like religion, it is a death sentence to the planet. I say, man, um, be one with nature. Be one with nature. Be part of the land. Protect the land and protect the people. I mean, when you protect the land, you're safeguarding yourself for another tomorrow. These other religions is a burden, and it's not natural. It's not a natural system. It's so artificial. It's artificial. I think it's so sad. Yeah, when you hear what's going on in these other communities, these indigenous locations, it's like we do this all over. People, we gotta wake up. We gotta wake up. These people aren't bad people. We become bad. These people here where I live, we have a whole bunch of these black dudes in these hotels. They're abandoned buildings or they're buildings that the government buys to house the inmates, the people who just got out of jail. But yet the U.S. is recruiting all these foreigners and giving them it is said that they'll be issuing them large sums of money. That large sum of money, they'd be able to buy a house. They'd be able to get social services. And the U.S. is allowing its black population who's on the street, horrible, call them animals, and they're acting like animals. When you call a people and you start to act out what you're being told. And shame on the groups that are putting these labels. And I think it's sad when you become those labels. Please, let's wake up. Stop the violence and calling out what it is. Stop the hatred. Stop the social bullying. Yeah, and go with the natural system of things. You go with nature and it will love you. We don't love ourselves anymore. We are hurting ourselves with these drugs. Changing the body, the natural body of a man and making it into a woman, taking the natural body of a woman and making it into a man. You gotta be crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Please let us wake up. None of us are perfect. But I assure you, you follow nature, the balance of nature and common sense. I think you produce a very beautiful society. You are being lied to. You are being lied to They don't even want you to know how to have your own medicine. They're putting they're passing poison as medicine. See that? It's an anti-human thing. That so ultimately, see they're dividing you into so-called races, but ultimately they want all the races to die. That is their plan. That is their plan, to destroy all humanity, and having us linked onto the internet, into what you call the metaverse. So you become a fake person, an avid, not even a human body, but an avatar, a fake plastic system to enslave all of humanity. That is the ultimate goal, to make us all enslaved by the few. Wake up, people, and out these criminals of humanity, the true savage of this planet. So I hope you enjoyed this content. I hope you understood my words. I love all people. I love humanity. And I see there's no perfect person, including myself. But I see a perversion going upon humanity that is taking the unnatural and making it seem natural. But it's not, and it's being used to harm us. The GMOs in the food is to make us plastic. You eat plastic, you're going to turn into plastic yourself. Get out there, get into nature. Be kind to yourself and to your neighbor. Be honest in your dealings with people. Be honest. You have all these people on YouTube that want to start these businesses, but they're all about money. Money. And no quality. It's not about service. It's about what you can do to manipulate people to buy your crap. But it's not about the quality of your service. And you want to create a need. Why create a need? Create a need. See, it's another form of slavery. People wake up, because all of you are going to be thrown under the bus. All of us. All of us. Speak out if you can. Have video to expose them, what they're doing. The family is being torn apart. Come back to family. Come back to your own personal humanity. This is really a beautiful planet. But we've become corrupt and destructive to our own. Please stop it. Please stop it now. Yes, this channel of mine, Spirit Journey, is really about waking up. Wake up, people, and stop being preoccupied by foolishness. Preoccupied with getting long eyelashes. Preoccupied getting these hair weaves or wigs. Getting fake eyebrows. Getting liposuction. Getting the Brazilian butt lift. really plastic existence. But I never hear these people talk about developing food for them, a food source. Wow. I'm just so sad about this. You're preoccupied with things or gossip. That's the new thing on this video. Gossip, gossip. You want to look like you're from some um, high end something, but how you talk like the gutter. And many of us live in gutters, but you got your camera to do your videos and you want people to think you're $1 million. God, is what I see is just a waste of time and money. It's a waste. Please develop these young these young people are just so shallow, and you're not thinking about your future, about the food. You're eating plastic food. You got GMO. You got toxic water. You got chemtrails. We want to talk about your eyebrows, your Brazilian butt lift, and your fucking hair weaves. I'm just really disgusted. I'm disgusted. They want to act like they're on a soap opera. A soap opera queen. But God forbid someone actually has those luxuries. Then you're called a bougie. We call a bougie, right? But it's okay for them to pretend on social media that they got that. Say fake. I hate this fakeness. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I don't like what I see. I don't like what we're turning into. I hate it. I don't want to be around it. I don't fit in. I don't fit in any of these things. I don't like it. I get up early so I don't have to really see all these people. It's phony. And you don't realize that you're being lied to. They're going to try to do another, what do you call it, pandemic again. They're going to try to do something else. They're going to go for the juggler next time. Yeah, people, be careful. Please be careful. I see it happening. They are going to do a number on us or on these big cities. God help us all. If there's a God, I don't believe in a God of the Bible. I do believe that there is a natural force of wisdom, knowledge, truth, and that's who I pray to. There is a natural order of thing. There is a natural logic and wisdom in this, and that's who I pray to. Wow. So let me go. I thank you all for listening to my live stream. Again, I know I talked about sensitive issues, and my video here is not to offend, but to share, to awaken, to communicate as through my perception and what I recently learned about. Yeah. Um, yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. Take care, guys, and have a wonderful, safe weekend. Okay? Bye for now.